It's always interesting because I just like make content and upload it, and I don't have a good headset at all. I just use like a crappy, cardboard with my Samsung S. I got an old phone, Samsung S7. But, I just use it to preview it, and then I kind of try to get responses from people. So, what kind of headset are you on, and like, what's your preferred way to view VR180?
I got both of them. They're behind me here. I have a PSVR, the second.
Okay.
It's a PSVR and an Oculus Rift, and then I have an Oculus Go over there, and then I got the cardboard headsets and stuff. The Rift is the most convenient one because it's hooked up to the computer, and that's how I tend to do everything anyway. Because with Premiere, if you have a Rift, you can actually live edit your stuff in VR. Yeah, no, it's like super cool.
I've seen like
to be able.
Hugh talks about that, and I wish I could do that. That sounds so awesome because I do use Adobe Premiere, but I don't have that capability. I need to get a better computer to be able to do that too. But that sounds awesome. So is that? Have you done that? It's got to be pretty immersive to be able to edit in that space.
More than anything else, it's about being able to preview it live and be able to look around and see. Like when I'm editing flat, I don't catch everything. Like I went to the Hole in the Rock in Mesa, Arizona, or in Phoenix, and I went up there and I set up the camera and I had my microphone and I recorded a whole intro and said, "Hey, this is Danthal. We're here and I'm doing the thing," and I thought it was okay. And I look at the footage and there's this kid's butt cracked, and the whole time he's climbing up the rock and just like like a good solid
you don't want
2
that
inches
in your
of
video,
butt crack.
Especially with the new YouTube rules. You're not going to want that in your video.
Yeah, so there's that, and if you blur it out, that's even more distracting if you get that, yeah, there's definite challenges with it, but with the editing in Premiere, it's nice to be able to get that view, and you put your markers and stuff, and it helps when you like I did in Tempe. Like, here's a car coming towards you, and clearly you're going to be looking at that car,
right?
And then the next scene, to make sure that that's in your field of view, so the next thing that comes in is relevant to the direction they're most likely looking,
right? So
you can direct in that way to keep the viewer's eye where it needs to be. So it's neat.
I've been trying to think of things like that more too, because people always. When I first started out, using the camera, I would do just all kinds of wacky, crazy shit, spin it around on top of the counter or something, just go nuts, and people would be like, "Stop, you're hurting us." So, right. And you want to make something that people actually enjoy, and so then after that, you figure out what looks good, and then you can, on top of that, figure out a way that it actually flows. Like if you do a pan or something, or think about where the sound's coming from, think about where. If there's a car coming, like you said, where is the eye line going to be, and does that match up to the eye line in the next shot if you're going to cut? There's a lot of cool things you can think about like that. But
yeah, it's a different medium, and when you're out there and you're doing the cinematography part of it, you're having that thought process of what is this going to look like. You don't have you can't frame like modern movies do.
Right.
I've seen, things where they're talking about in the Batman movie, they show the Joker's on this side and Batman's on this side. And when they go back and forth, and then they do the thing and they put the Batman on this side and the Joker. So there's this cinematography of confusing who's where, what's going on. We don't have that same kind of option necessarily.
I've been trying to think about that, and I think like in the future, I wonder if VR should almost be, like the viewer is in the recliner in the film. And if that was the case, your recliner wouldn't automatically swap here, swap here, swap here, swap here. It'd be more like viewing a live play. So you have to think of, if you're doing something like you're making a new type of story, you have to stage it almost like a play. You shouldn't be just like going crazy with the cuts, which I try to be creative and do wacky things just because I feel like it. But I think if you were to do like a narrative story, you need to be careful with that and think about it like a play. I guess it is different that way. And I think that goes for the acting too. Like where people went from to talkies from silent pictures, and all of a sudden their acting seemed ridiculous. I think the same could be true with VR films, where all of a sudden where people are doing movie acting, it's going to seem like overacting because it's not grounded in that space. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things to think about like that.
Absolutely.
We're hawking for this Lenovo Mirage, and at the same time we're still dealing with the problems. People are like, you should just get uh, Views XR or something.
I'm hoping that maybe the K1 Pros come down, or maybe some other manufacturer actually turns around and does something and makes something again. Like something new.
I got an Insta360 Evo, and I also messed up that lens, but I just sent it in to get it repaired, and it should be back in a few weeks. The one thing I wasn't quite sure about with it, like it records at a higher bit rate, but even when the ISO is limited, I found that in low light there was some noise. I mean, the image is really sharp and it looks great, but in low light, I think that they have a variable bit rate with whatever they're compressing for the footage. So in low light, because I would look at some files and it was only shot in low light, it would be like 20 megabits per second. And then if it was shot in like daylight, it would be up what it's normally at, which I forget what it is. It's like 80 to 100. It's a lot higher. Whereas the Lenovo, it might record at a low bit rate. I think it's only like 30 or even lower. I forget. But it's constant. It stays there regardless of whether you're in the dark or if you're in daylight. So that was my only problem with the camera. Otherwise, it's great, and you wouldn't need a gimbal if you got that camera at all. You can walk just holding it in your hand, and the post-processing software smooths everything out. The only other issue with that, though, is that you have to do the post-processing software. There's no escape. It's like but I mean, if you're used to using the VR180 tool, that would be fine.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's a toss-up. I'm aware that there's a little bit more quality you can squeeze out of it without using the tool, and I think with some of the experimentation I've done, that it's mitigable. It's a toss-up. Some of the stuff, though, if you want to get a little bit crazier with it, the software is fun to work with. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a way you can get two 180 VR videos, and then you convert them to top and bottom, and then you open your project as a 360, you put the 180 video in and you slide it over, then you get your other left right and you put that in, you get that, and now you have 360 3D. So you can almost do things that are like, you can see what's in front of you and turn around and see the another thing behind you.
Right.
So I did that, here I am mowing the lawn in one part, and then there's a gaming convention going on in the back. And I'm using it to potentially. I'm working on a movie right now. I'm writing the script, doing the storyboarding, and taking test footage. A movie called The Shed of Wanting, which is now the COVID-19. To be honest, is like changing the plot of the movie, because the plot of the movie was isolation already, about a man who's in isolation who has this shed that just has whatever he wants inside of it. And and now things are going on, but I want desperately to be able to do something like that, to do cinema type experiences in that. Your videos definitely were the inspiration that shows that it can be done. You have the one with, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. I knew his name. The dude who's Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's his name? It's infectious.
The voiceover, Alec
there you
Guinness?
go, Alec Guinness. There, yeah. That video, you had the a lot of the cinema kind of things going on, the cool 3D, the overlays, the stuff like that. So it's absolutely possible, and I think that medium's really powerful, especially in watching. When you're watching in virtual reality, it's a lot more immersive.
Oh, well, I've just, to be cliche, everybody watches Joe Rogan, but Elon Musk said something on that. He was like, when we're in VR, where are we? Which is really interesting, like, because if you're consciously watching a movie and you're in a theater, you still know you're in a theater. But when you're watching VR, I mean, maybe if it's in first person, you're like, you are the character. It is a different level of experience. So that your movie sounds cool. What's the timeline on that? Like, when are you planning to release it?
I'm in the phase of writing and doing test shots and seeing what's going to work. I have... It's a challenge. It's a challenge to do something. It's going to be like my first kind of thing like that. I know it's going to be horrible, but that's what keeps me from doing, is that I want it to be as good as possible. So I want to get better cameras before I do it, but now it's going to take time until that happens. So I've done like test shots, and I've done a lot of preparation for audio stuff that goes with it. I want it to be really audio heavy because that's where my strengths are as an audio production and audio editing. And writing, rewriting, storyboarding, but not taking as much action as I could. I hope to have it out and viewable by the end of 2020. I don't see why I wouldn't be able to, especially with the the shelter in place. I should be taking way more action on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to take. I think for VR180 to take off is people using it like that, not just like. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with just going in the backyard and pointing it at a flower or your cat. That's fine too, or a family birthday. But the thing that's really going to make it take off are when people are creating great content, and that's the only place you can see it. You have to watch this in VR. Like there should be VR on Netflix. That should be something that we're all vying for. It'd be how every comedian in the world has a Netflix special. As VR creators, there should be some kind of form of online content like that where it's just that's where you go and you get these experiences you can't find anywhere else. So that's awesome.
I equate it with the if you remember the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, if you want a really great band, you have to have Eddie Van Halen, but you can't get Eddie Van Halen unless you're a really great band. And they can't think their way around it. So that's
chicken and egg sort of situation.
Yeah, we need to have, high quality VR experiences in movies and things like that, but then people have to want to watch them, but they won't want to watch them if they don't exist.
Right.
So we have this kind of thing to where we get the high quality stuff like the Felix and Paul stuff and the Boab Studios stuff. And we have some high-quality studios that are making things that are out there, but they seem to be doing them like, a one-time, kind of thing.
Right.
Make this one video or maybe one video every 6 months. I want to see, I wish something like this would happen. Just somebody reshoot Three's Company in VR. Just get VR cameras, get a set, and do Three's Company so that you have things that you can bring in and do it and bring back television in that way. I would love
that'd be interesting, like that. Yeah, or like people that vlog or whatever it is, whatever the content is, it could be done in VR. There are definitely different considerations. You have to be more careful. You have to keep things more steady. There's a lot that you have to take into account, but it can be done.
Way more processing into editing.
It's probably going to happen by people using cameras like this. I mean, you just we'll make the short films. We'll put them out there. It's not for the money. It's for the hope of being able to have people watch it in the future, and we don't know if they will, but I mean, the only thing that makes content watchable and good is if it is art, and art happens regardless of the money coming back. You're trying to express yourself. So, yeah, if we see this vision in this world in the future, we just have to make it happen. I mean, we can make it happen.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that either one of us are a Vincent Van Gogh, but that dude didn't get to see a whole lot of his money.
I don't know.
Like, he was done by the time, his things were selling for millions. He would have been thrilled to think that. But, yeah, maybe there's, like, there's got to be somebody that's that person of VR sometime or another, and maybe you and I can help set some of the rules and lay some of the groundwork and everything to make it easier for that person so they don't have to.
That's what's exciting about it, right? Things. I mean, like, imagine, because there's people that are still into like, well, I want to be a filmmaker someday, so I'm going to go to Hollywood, I'm going to follow all the steps, and by the time they get done with it, they're just a studio executive who's completely they're not in it for the art anymore. They just lost their way. But I mean, we're in a new frontier. We're like in the Wild West. We can do anything we want. We're making the rules. So that's what's really exciting about it. It's more like Robert Rodriguez, Rebel Without a Crew. That's what it is. So.
And unfortunately, we're so early in the phase of it that is not a popular medium. So, like, we're both, kind of hipsters of the medium. There's just no other way around it. It's such a small
we don't have
niche
to be
of people who
hipsters,
care about that. I mean, come on, that beard, that hat, you got hipster written all over you.
No, this is for the movie. I don't look like this normally. I'll have you know, I actually live in the country, so this hat is relevant to my territory. I know, I'm just joking. I know you're joking too. No, there's nothing wrong with hipsters, but it's, I completely agree. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I think it's worth trying. Might as well give it a shot. What else do we have to do? We're all quarantined, and I mean, hopefully we don't all die, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, not, yeah. I don't think it's going to be an all of us kind of thing. No, it's okay. It's a completely relevant thing, and the talk of this coronavirus bleeds into everyday life. You can't avoid it. It's something that's set in your brain. Your monkey brain says there's something dangerous. Stay away from it, and it wants to look out for it everywhere it is, and it's nowhere. It's everywhere it's nowhere. Yeah. Oh. It's
the invisible enemy, as Trump says. I'm in a rural area where people don't seem to be taking it very seriously. I'm like the only person that I know that's like scared to go out. I don't know. Maybe just because I used to live in New York, and maybe just being around so many people made me think that you can just see how germs transfer. So
absolutely.
I don't know.
So. Thanks for spending some time with us in VR180. Absolutely love this interview. It's going to be fun to edit and put out there for everybody to check out.
Good luck.
Tell me about what's going on there in the background. Tell me about your environment. It's interesting.
Thank you very much. Well, I've got this bunker here. I'm actually in the hayloft of a barn in the middle of Ohio. So this is a bunker that's supposed to be below ground, but right now I'm actually above ground. I built this last year, and I don't know how good it looks from where you're at, from what you can see, but I'm making it's like a post-apocalyptic movie about an old man. He runs into no people during the entire movie. He's a thief except for these bad guys that wear these chemical suits. It's called the Corn Thief. Sounds kind of ridiculous, but the last human commodity left is these stockpiles of corn in rural areas. He steals the corn, delivers it to people because it's the only power source. They let it ferment, and they turn it into food and power. So he gets an order to deliver, and he ends up delivering it to this bunker, and then things progress from there. There's some revelations about what's actually going on in this scenario, but it plays into VR very much, whether, the reality of the world, who he is exactly. I'm tying it into a lot of things I shot when I used to live in New York City. Mm-hmm. So I worked at the American Museum of Natural History, and after work, I would sneak around with my friend, and we would shoot things like in the basement, and like with the dinosaur bones and everything. And believe it or not, that movie ties into that too.
Oh, that's awesome!
It'll be a couple different short films that all tie together. So they should be able to exist as pieces, and then tie together if you end up watching them all. But
that's excellent. It's funny that we're on like a similar track. Mine's the same kind of thing. I'm planning 3 or 4 15-minute things.
Oh, really?
That to get it together, so you have a narrative to where the first one has a definite feel and theme to it. The second one changes that up, and the third one has some kind of a conclusion with the potential to even go into a series. I have a handful of ideas that I'm not taking action on because I'm just afraid of the final product and putting something like that out there and then spending that amount of time. But it's a lot of fun. The filmmaking is the creative process and the kind of magic things that can happen with it are great. And you and I are on that same wavelength of this is the future. This is going to be a new kind of thing, and people are going to love this kind of stuff when they get their heads wrapped around it.
I think so very much. I really hope so. I'm not sure what'll happen for sure, but I think it's going to take people actually making the effort. I know you said you'd hate to put all this time and effort into something that doesn't end up turning out. I tried so many movies. I'd be like, I'm making a feature film, and I would take all my money and I would do it, and my friends wouldn't show up, or like I would do something stupid and it wouldn't work out. Everything I think I've ever tried like that has been a failure, but gradually, after all those failures, you figure out what works, what doesn't, and it's worth a try. And especially this format, I think, is something very special, very unique. More people should talk about it, more content. I don't want to just make your video go on too long, but it would be cool to do a short film contest or something.
Absolutely.
Like co-sponsor, like I would put money into it for anybody to win, just to make people excited about making, VR180 content, because I think that's what's going to take it to another level. But
see, what we need to do is get the camera manufacturers to put into stuff like that. We need to get their money and get those kind of things going. But it's a chicken and egg kind of thing, and are they going to invest that?
You got to show them first, right? Yeah. So maybe it's up to the users to do it. Like,
so we need
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I used to be on a site called DVX User. It was for the Panasonic DVX 100, and they used to have short film contests on that website, and there would be so many people that would contribute, and it really created a community of people using their, 480p shitty digital cameras to make short films. They were great at the time. But I mean, I think we need a community like that. We need a forum. We need a message board. We need a Reddit space. We need a community to actually make this medium go forward. So I think what you're doing with this interview and doing interviews like this that's like one of the first steps. So I think we need to keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm trying to do too. Is I started watching VR 2018, I think, and then I made a bunch of episodes, and I was like, this isn't doing what I want. And then I had like medical issues, and then I had just issues just with life after overcoming medical issues. And it's just been recently to where like I'm gung ho and I want to get this going and get this medium pushed forward. Whether it be with interview content, or it be, let's go to the zoo, let's go to the park, let's go here, let's do things that have a narrative built into it that are enjoyable to watch, that aren't just, here's this test video of this. Yeah.
Right.
And
totally agree.
Absolutely. Thanks a ton for spending some time with us watching VR episode number 15. We'll be back in another couple weeks or so when I get some things going. Maybe we'll get some of my... I'm doing a lot of like yard work, and I'm recording the yard work, and maybe I'll make something goofy artistic out of that. Do the thing where you have like 2 or 3 of me doing yard work at the same time, and it's fun to watch. And
I have a goofy yard work video too for anybody that wants to check. It's in there.
Absolutely. We'll get you linked and everything else on the page. Thanks once again, Gabriel, for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you having me. This has been great. Appreciate what you're doing.